Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the He's on Fire podcast, the After Dark show. I am one half of your host, Jay Joyce. You can follow me on Twitter at the name Jay Joyce. And we're also brought to you by Arizona Sports Underground. It's our new partner. If you're interested in Diamondbacks, Arizona Cardinals, follow the Cardinal rule. Joe, he's great. Follow Jackie as well. A lot of cool stuff coming to this program. We're really excited to be part of it. And Evan is out tonight. Me and Amit, we decided to, hop on. We've been trying to do this for a minute, but before I get in any further, Amit, how you doing, dude? What's going on? How's life? Lay it out on me.
It's just kicking me in the ass, but that's kind of how life goes, right? You gotta fight through those adversaries,
He's heating up.
just like the Suns got to do, just like the Cardinals got to do, just like
Yeah.
the Diamondbacks got to do tonight after Corbin Carroll got hit by a pitch. But I'm hanging in there, man. It's been a rocky road, but it's nothing really terrible. It's just so many things happening at once.
Yeah, we have a very jam-packed show today. It's mostly going to be Star Wars related, but we have a few things to talk about before we get into the nitty-gritty, because I don't know when we're going to do another episode for the regular pod. But the Denver Nuggets just won the NBA Finals. I'm very annoyed right
Congrats.
now. I know.
I'm not. I look, dude. I don't. Yeah, we lost to the eventual champions. We took two
Yeah.
games from them. Nobody else did. We can hang that banner up for us. The only team to take two games. The rest of the NBA took two games from them in the playoffs. We took two.
Yeah.
Jokic played at a level that was like unreal.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray proved that the bubble Murray wasn't just a thing. I was really hoping that the Heat could pull it out. Like strategically, they had things figured out. They were making things work when they started playing zone. But just Jimmy, I don't know. He morphs into like this guy that just can't hit his threes. He's not as like he had a couple clutch performances earlier in the playoffs, but like those are against lesser opponents. And does that hold up? Like we can truly say that Booker put up two historical games against the championship team, right?
Right.
He did that against Milwaukee when he did that too. I know I'm not trying to get away from the Nuggets, but when it comes to the Suns, I know on Twitter all the Suns fans are just pissed off and annoyed and just like everybody hates gods hate us, the basketball gods, the commissioners hate us, whatever. I mean, look, man, like we weren't supposed to win this year. Like if we won this year, it would have been a miracle.
Right.
With all the changes. So like we got the next 3 years. Like if we don't get a chip in the next 3 years, then we can go we can blow our brains out. Not really do that, but I'm just saying like figuratively we can all go drink some Kool-Aid and pass out.
Yeah, dude. I'm on the same boat with you. It's losing to the eventual champs. I mean, we went through that with the LA Rams last season. And then, Milwaukee, we lost to, them and stuff. It's just annoying. This is 15 times now that, the Phoenix Suns have lost to the eventual champions. That's a hard pill to swallow. If we would,
I think that's good though. I think that's better than
Yeah.
not though. Wouldn't you want that? I'm happy about that. I'm happy that we lost to the team. Okay. If we couldn't beat them, the window's still open. Like we know 07, that was a chip for us, guaranteed chip.
Yeah.
That Mavericks series, well, the Mavericks lost. Mavericks eventually went to finals, but that potentially would have been another chip if Steve Nash and Roger Bell were still healthy. And then we lost those three in the finals. I mean, we lost to the Celtics, we lost to Jordan, and then we lost to in Milwaukee on Giannis doing historic shit. So like I'm okay with that, dude. I know everybody's down, but I'm like we have a lot to look forward to. In fact, one thing I'm gonna say right now. The Suns got to do whatever in their power to get Bruce Brown on this team because he can opt out of his contract as a player option. I think he's making like $6.5 million. We can get him higher than the mid-level. We need to get Bruce Brown. Like Bruce Brown, we got to get that guy. I would love to get him and KCP. KCP stands for Keep Championship Players. Those guys came up big the entire playoff run. I would
Yeah, they
love
did.
to see
Yeah.
if we can get both of those guys, but we should at least get one of them.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Bruce Brown because like a few days ago, that guy that runs Katie's podcast, Eddie.
I don't know who he is, but I've seen the podcast. Like I don't know
Yeah,
his name, but yeah.
yeah. So like a few days ago, some random like Twitter dude was like talking about like how like Katie ran like Bruce Brown like out of the gym or whatever. Like he just didn't like him, and both like Katie and Eddie were like, well, like what the fuck are you talking about? Like
Yeah.
I love Bruce, and then like Bruce Brown liked like those tweets as well of Katie being like, what are you talking about? Like we're like fucking homies and stuff. But that would be cool though. I mean, Bruce Brown kind of got on my nerves when we played him, but I mean that's all competition. He's a really good player. I think he's a step up above campaign as of right now. I probably wouldn't have said the same last season. KCP, dude's just dangerous from behind the arc. Will not drive the ball, but I mean he makes it rain. But I mean, the Nuggets, like, they didn't sit on their hands in the offseason like the 29 other teams, you know? Like,
Hmm.
they made the additions, they made improvements at the trade deadline, and they were by far the healthiest team this year. And the results panned out the way that it should have. And Jokic would have gotten a lot of shit if he didn't at least get to the finals this year if he won his third straight MVP. But now he has that monkey off his back. Now he can just play ball going forward. Jamal Murray can keep on talking his talk. I mean, I like the team. They're really good and they got their shit together. And that's all you really need for a season. And we haven't had that opportunity yet, I would say. And I think it's coming down the line. I know if we got past the Nuggets, we would have for sure beat the Lakers. And if we knew Miami was going to be that comp, I feel like we would have played a little harder. But
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it is
But
what it is. Like I agree with everything you're saying. I think if we would have played Miami, it would have been a lot. I think it would have been harder for us because they could have game planned us a lot harder. Like
What's up,
Jokic,
Joe?
his whole style was just like there's maybe I'm thinking like maybe three guys that can defend him, and when I say defend him, it's like that maybe they can contain him a little bit. It's like Anthony Davis, DeAndre Ayton if he's engaged, and then maybe like Miles Turner. But
Mhm.
who else can guard him? Like we saw Bam. Isn't Bam all defensive player? He couldn't guard him.
Yeah.
You know, I think the only thing the way you beat him is that when your starter's off the court, you got a guy like Jock or somebody that could just run the court and just make it work on the other side. Like and then just get him
Yeah.
tired. Like I don't know. Like I don't even know what you do with Jokic. I have no idea.
If he's in the paint, he's going to make it. That's what's the annoying thing. Then you can't double. Oh, so he has KCP or
Yeah.
MPJ or Jamal Murray, and that's what you do. That's what you do as a front office. You don't get caught sitting on your hands, and that killed us in that Dallas series when we didn't make improvements and we just ran it back. Which I was totally in favor of going into the season because we won 64 fucking games. But
Yeah.
I mean, it just showed the lack of shooting depth that we had, and we got absolutely exposed in that aspect. And when you don't have like the best player in the world, arguably, it's hard to kind of overcome that hill if you're the opposing team. Well,
Let's
which Jokic has
let's quick
been unbelievable.
yeah, let's quickly switch over to CP3 talk real quick. Just real quick.
Yeah, yeah,
Um so nothing has been finalized, nothing's been official. It sounds like they're trying to work something out. In my heart, I think that what's going to happen is that he's going to they're going to waive him. He's going to clear waivers because no one wants to pay that, and then he's going to come back to the Suns on a minimum deal. That's my feeling because like his best opportunity to win a championship is with Devin Booker and KD, and he's already really close with those guys.
yeah.
So I don't know what else he could do. Like I hear talks about him going to the Clippers. Like, are you going to add another like unreliable guy if your whole entire team is unreliable? If he goes to the Lakers, he's going to stand in the corner. He's not going to be the point guard, right?
Mhm.
He's basically they're putting him in like a Russell Westbrook situation there, where they want him to run the second unit, but the second unit's trash, and like he needs a ball in his hand. So I don't know. I feel like his best opportunity is to come back to the Suns on a minimum deal and understand that there's going to be another ball handler on the court, whoever it's going to be. If it's a superstar or if it's like a elite role player where he's going to have to split time and understand that.
Mm. Yeah, like if CP is cool with doing that and we actually pull it off, hang his fucking number in the Raptors, man.
Yeah.
Because that's best case scenario. I would love to keep Chris on this team, but not at that $30 million price tag. So if he's willing to do all that, go through those hurdles, and we sign him back on like a minimum, and then we're able to bring in some additional pieces along with trading DeAndre Ayton, I like that's best case going forward, in my opinion. The way that Clippers fans treat Chris Paul is very annoying to me. Like, Chris didn't give him some of the best the best 5 year stretch in the Clippers organization. And the second was Blake Griffin. I'm like, what are you supposed to do? And it's like,
he was their Steve Nash, dude. Like he was Steve Nash to the Suns. Like you have to honor that. You have to understand what he did. He changed the culture. He created this like Lob City. He got them to the playoffs. Yeah, a lot of things went wrong with him, but we could point at Nash, and if we nitpick, we could find the same things. I mean, he was injured in the playoffs a lot. He didn't play defense when we really needed him. I remember like when we had Nash and Shaq, like that was just a disaster in pick and roll situations against Tony Parker and Duncan. I mean, they have their limitations, but overall, like they built the team, a playoff team, a solid winning team to get to a certain level, and it was a matter of can everything come together correctly for them to move to the next step, and it never did. And you could blame him for that meltdown against the Rockets. I mean, you can't blame him entirely. You can blame the entire team, but he's part of that team. That where they were down by what was it, 28 or 38, and then they James Harden was on the bench the entire fourth quarter, and it was like Trevor Ariza and all these other scrubs just killing the Clippers, forcing the game 7. I mean, that's on everybody. But he did, he did a lot for them. He hit the game winner against San Antonio when they were underdogs to in game 7.
When Duncan was guarding them and stuff.
Yeah.
It was, and same thing with New Orleans too. They act like Chris Paul wasn't part of that team.
Same thing,
it's
dude.
Just so weird. It's so weird.
Yeah,
and I hope Suns fans don't give into that.
It's like that would be the same thing, and it wasn't like he left in free agency. They tried to trade him.
Yeah.
And they didn't accept the trade to the Lakers. I mean, that's what is he supposed to do about that? Like, what is his involvement? Like, even because he never flat out said trade me to the Lakers. Did you ever say that? I don't think he did.
No, he didn't.
No, he never said that. So they tried to trade him with Kobe, didn't work out. The league, didn't let it go through. And then he went to where'd he go after?
Clippers.
That's when he went to Lakers or Clippers, sorry. Yeah. So I mean, like, what do you want him to do? I don't know.
Like if Chris Paul can fall into the Kyle Lowry role, run the bench unit, be that vet presence, like just execute, give your hardest 15 to 20 minutes, and that's all we need from Chris at this point. And everything else will work out because we have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker on this team.
I agree with you. Real quick, I agree with you. I just think, and some, part of me thinks like, I mean, I know Kyle Lowry's old too, but I kind of would rather have Kyle Lowry than Chris Paul. Just because like when you're saying you give 15, when he's giving 15, 20 minutes, he's diving on the floor, he's taking charges, he's getting into other players, he's taking wild shots, but he's making them. I would rather have that than Chris Paul, because if Chris Paul gave me 20 minutes of his hardest basketball, he's going to get injured.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that is the truth. Yeah.
And I don't even know what the hardest of his 20 minutes is anymore. Because, like, yeah, he's really good at swiping at the ball and stealing it and getting back, but, like, and like, maybe, annoying some post players and some point guards, but he gets cooked quite often.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah, that's an unfortunate thing with Chris at this point in his career. Yeah, like if he plays hard, I mean, his injury proneness just goes
Yeah.
up a couple pegs. But I mean, uh, to kind of put a nail into the Chris Paul thing, you probably saw that Fred Van Fleet declined his player option today. How are you feeling on if Van Fleet on a scale of 1 to 10?
I mean, if if I want him on the team, I mean, I would say probably like an 8. I just want to see how it all plays out. I don't know what his cap number is going to look like, so that's the only thing that
Oh,
worries me because I don't want to spend too much on him, and then not have money to get guys like Bruce Browns, those types of guys, right?
yeah.
Um, I kind of like the idea of trading for Marcus Smart, trading Chris Paul to Boston, but we don't really have any other assets to give back to them for that. Um, so I don't know. I mean, the guys that I like Fred VanVleet, I like Chris Paul. I mean, sorry, I mean I do like Chris Paul, but not as much as those guys. I like Marcus Smart, and I like Bruce Brown. And I think Bruce Brown's so flexible that he can be a starting point guard. He played center in New Jersey for
Hmm.
with Kevin Durant. So I think the reunion of those two guys. I mean, I think there's just so much versatility that we can have. And then if we just fill in the rest of those guys.
Yeah. Oh, what I was going to add to the playing hard for 20 minutes, we saw that with Torrey Craig this season. Like him as starting five, it was kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. But when he was coming off the bench, like dude was like a spark,
Yeah,
and we just sort of need that because our finals year, our bench was great, and we'll give up the lead as soon as the starting five comes back in, and then last season the we found like a good sort of pocket between the bench and the starting five when we didn't blow leads like we did. We need to get back to that final season when our bench can even extend the lead at
yeah.
times and stuff. So,
That's what we
but
need. That's what we need in
yeah,
the regular season for sure. Just to take care of like injured players and just give people rest and just like build that continuity as we move in because and that confidence because like yeah we didn't have that like we haven't had that since the year before not we didn't have really
yeah,
have it last year.
yeah. So to put a pin in the basketball talk, hopefully we just come out swinging to start the season. We haven't talked about Frank Vogel yet. I'm totally cool with it. Bringing in uh, uh, who's the Utah guy that we brought in? Fitz.
Oh, Fizdale.
Yeah, Fizdale. Yeah, I think that's a nice addition as well.
Oh yeah.
Uh, what?
No, I just saying like yeah we
Uh,
dude
uh,
we got 3 head coaches on this roster so
oh,
and it
Kevin.
sucks for it.
Us keeping Kevin Young too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We have 3 head coaches. So if Frank Vogel like fucks around, then he knows who's gonna replace him. One of those guys is gonna replace him, right? And we'll have that continuity. We'll be okay. I think we're good. I think like at this point, yeah, you would love to have a guy like Eric Spoelstra or like a I mean, yeah, probably him is probably the top guy. But if you don't have him or Nick Nurse, and I don't know what Nick Nurse is doing, like why he chose Philly, but I think it's because of connections with Daryl Morey. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, like you have your coaches are on. If you keep Chris Paul, even if you don't keep Chris Paul, your coach is on the court. Those guys are going to decide the games for you.
Mhm.
Yeah, they need tactical help in here and there. They need to figure out their rotations and resting and stuff. But in terms of like who's going to decide the game, it's like the same way that LeBron had however many coaches he's had, and like those
Mhm.
guys were just there to just kind of figure all that other stuff out, while
Right.
LeBron just kind of put it together. So
Yeah. I like Westville says right here. I think Vogel was the right hire for sort of what we needed because, like Ty Lue wasn't available. Like we needed to get a head coach as soon as possible. Nurse, I was skeptical on because his player relationship with the Toronto guys, and I would like to have some of those Toronto guys. So,
yeah,
uh, and his ring is a little fluky because that Warriors team was pretty beat the shit. So
they would have won.
I
They would have won if KD didn't get hurt. I mean, we all know that. Like
yeah,
Warriors going to win
yeah,
that shit.
yeah. So Yeah, then Doc, obviously no, and then us letting go Monty. Shout out to Monty for getting his bag, but uh,
Yeah.
like Vogel wasn't a name that anybody was talking about besides Gambo, and
Yeah.
he called it. But I'm totally fine with the hire. Defensive minded, he's overachieved plenty of times. And those Pacer teams that he ran were really good. That bubble Lakers team, they rallied together and pulled a ring. So, and he's been in the league forever. So this is a nice, experienced guy. I like it going forward, and it's a guy that cusses too. So,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
instills some manhood in the locker room and on the court as well. So, but that doesn't mean that DA is going to be staying. That doesn't mean anybody's going to be staying. It doesn't even mean that Shaman is leaving. So
Yeah.
we just got to hope that James Jones and Matt Ishiba and the rest of the crew have a plan figured out and really execute this summer, because we have to be busy this summer if we're going to
Yeah.
really make a push for the playoffs, because we know going in into last season that we were probably going to be decent 4 or 5 seed, and we essentially were, but we knew that we weren't going to win, and we all had that hope. Like when I went to Game 6 and I met Darth Voida, John from the Sense Jam session at the game. Shout out to him. Him and I were talking like 15 minutes just about the season and just the overall atmosphere in the arena, and everyone knew, like everyone was hanging out, having fun, like enjoying, watching some Suns ball and stuff, and everyone kind of knew that the Nuggets were probably going to pull away, and that's what it ended up happening. So I don't want to go through that feeling again. We absolutely need to execute, this summer in
Yeah.
free agency, and just make promises, and maybe we could keep Terrence Ross too. I would love to keep Terrence Ross and actually utilize him, because when we actually gave him fucking minutes, he gave us 25, like no problem. So
Yeah.
oh yeah, so to wrap up the basketball talk, we'll address more of it going forward as more information comes in. Free agency is going to be starting literally tomorrow, sort of. So we're going to be hearing a lot of chatter going forward. So then football news, really, D Hop, he got released. That's kind of like the biggest story. Um, I kind of wish we would have got some capital off of it. I kind of knew he was going to be leaving. But my guess is he's either going to the Chiefs or Patriots. What are your guesses?
I mean, he wanted an extension, and we were not going to give him that bag like that, especially with the money we already have guaranteed to other players. So,
Yeah,
I was really fucking pissed that we cut him without
stuff
getting
go to.
anything back. What's up? I was really fucking pissed that we cut him without getting anything back. But I kind of look at the other way and I go, okay, I mean, if sometimes like with certain skill players, like maybe the production isn't worth it. Like he like the same way that they cut him, he like cut us 6 games by getting the suspension, right? Like that
Yeah,
hurt our season. And then he got hurt the season before that. And now he's approaching what he's like 31. So he's in his like towards the end of his prime years as a wide receiver. Um, maybe that's the right move. Like I've come around.
yeah.
I was really mad in the beginning, but now I'm like, whatever. Like
I'm
sometimes
over
you
it.
cut these
Yeah,
guys, and who is going to pay him? Like he hasn't gotten a contract yet. Who's going to pay him?
yeah,
He's going to be one of those like 1 year. He's probably going to get a 1 year like $17 million deal or something, right?
yeah.
A prove it deal, and then he's going to have to go somewhere else and prove it again. Like it's just going to be on that same sort of thing. So because he couldn't get that long-term extension with us, it kind of fucks him for the rest of his career. And it sucks for him. It sucks for us. It sucks for anybody that owns a Hopkins jersey. But I mean, hopefully you
Hey,
buy it if you buy it on an Amex, I think you can get like a refund or something on it. I don't know how it works.
yeah, I think that is the thing too, which is really cool. More credit card
Hmm.
companies should do that, but
Yeah.
it definitely sucks. I mean, he gave us the Hail Murray
Yep.
catch, and he gave us a lot of good ball. And like we've had Larry Fitzgerald, we've had Adrian Wilson. We've had all these great receivers, and now add D Hop to that conversation. One of the best in the last like half decade. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool to say. But I wish him the best. If he goes to the Chiefs are going to look pretty nasty. And if he goes to the Pats, it's really just to play for a really really good coach. And that gets some money in the process because
Yeah.
Mac Jones isn't going to find him. So
Yeah. They could probably
Yeah.
scheme him into a 1,200 yards or something, but it's I mean he's not going to
Anquan
play.
Bolden. I had it at the tip of my tongue. I just
Yeah.
couldn't pull it. Yeah, Anquan. Yeah,
Yeah. I
I
mean
love Anquan Bolden, dude.
he'll sign. Oh, I loved him too. He'll sign like a 1 year deal over there, and then get 1,200 yards, and maybe somebody will sign him for a long term deal. But we'll see. Like at some point when we do another podcast, I have a whole thing. I haven't put it together yet, but I'll put it together. It's about wide receivers and why Fitz is like Fitz. There's like Fitz and Jerry Rice and like pretty much nobody else. Like so we'll do that at some point. We'll do that podcast.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one over the summer or right
Yeah.
before we get into preseason because I would love to break it down because me and my cousin we were talking about like just like you really can't give like a goat in like NFL terms. You would have to go by like position. And
Yeah.
we're talking about receivers and DNs and stuff like that. On the defensive side of things, you can kind of just say like one person is kind of like the definitive goat, but it's more from like the linebacker, and maybe safeties.
Mhm.
But when it comes to cornerbacks, you kind of have to separate it. But yeah, that would be an interesting sort of thing to talk about sometime in the summer when nothing is going on. Uh, if D Hop goes to the Cowboys, they're not going to do anything. I don't even think they have any capital like that, unless if they get rid of Zeke. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
I
know.
um I mean, we'll see where he goes. Like I'm sure he'll have an impact wherever he goes,
Yeah,
but
of course. Yeah,
it's up to him like what he wants. Because like I think in his mind, he probably wouldn't go to a team that can sign him long term, and no one's going to give him a long term deal now unless they're really desperate.
uh,
So, and they haven't done it yet. So that's like why I'm just wondering like what the market's going to look like. And so he may go somewhere where they give him a 1 year deal like a Cowboys, and then maybe Cowboys give him a long term deal. But the Cowboys just didn't they extended Ezekiel Elliott? So I don't know, man. We're
mhm.
talking too much football. Let's get into Star Wars
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. But before we get into Star Wars, I saw Across the Spider Verse.
I
The movie's absolutely incredible.
that's what I
Absolutely
keep hearing.
incredible.
So I rewatched Into the Spider Verse with my son on last weekend, and so the idea is that we're gonna go to the theater and see it this weekend for Father's Day, one of my little Father's Day treats. But I'm excited, dude. That's why, like, I stayed away from spoilers. I stayed away from everything for that movie. I just want to go in there and just see it because I remember seeing the first one in the theater with my wife, and we were just like, even my wife, she doesn't like cartoon movies and she doesn't like comic book movies. And she's like, dude, that was freaking awesome. Like that was
Yeah,
an awesome movie. And rewatching it, I'm like, this movie just holds up. Like it ages really well.
yeah,
So the idea that we'll get another one of those, um, I'm really excited to go see it this weekend.
yeah. Like see it, and like once you see it, we'll hop back on another After Dark and we'll break it down because
Yeah.
this movie was absolutely incredible. Me and my
Was
brother
it
were
better
like,
than the
"Yup."
first one?
In my opinion, it is. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Like,
Because like in my opinion, that was the best Spider-Man movie.
yeah. It was for
The
me
the first
too,
one. I'm talking
and
about the first one.
yeah, it took me 2 watches on the first one because I have that thing with animation too sometimes.
Yeah.
Like and I just don't compute it well. And
Yeah.
after I watched it the second time, it was really good on the first watch. The second time,
Yeah.
I'm all like, yeah, this beats every Spider-Man that I've seen. This
Yeah.
second one, like the first one was a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like the second one is probably a 10 out of 10.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's great. And then the third one comes out in March. Can't fucking wait. It can't come
There's a
sooner.
third one already coming out.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So
Was there
yeah.
cutscenes about it in the movie?
No. There was
Okay.
no post credit scenes or anything like that. Before the second movie even came out, the Lord and Miller, the guys that produced the movie and stuff like that, they said that the third movie would come out a year later, but that was kind of a while ago. I hope that holds up, but if we have to wait for a masterpiece, I'm totally okay with it. But
Yeah.
this might go down as the best trilogy like of all time
Wow.
if they hit on the third one. So, but because of that, when I was growing up, I had a fuck ton of comics, and I ended up selling them, and now I'm getting back into it. So I thought I would, go to a local comic store and pick. I never got Miles Morales when I was younger, so I picked up one of that. I got Spider Punk as well, the first edition. This is a relatively new character and storyline. Then I had this very, very old Daredevil comic back in the. I think this is '85 that this was pressed in. I had this when I was younger, but this one has a poster that's on the inside. I didn't have the poster when I was younger. But my favorite edition is if you know anything about comics, you know about the artist Alex Ross, one of my favorite just artists in general. His comic work is absolutely unbelievable, and so this is a poster book. So not only you get like the individual, characters and everything that he's drawn, but you can rip it out and frame it if you wanted to. And so it's an easy tear, and then you get a nice, big ass poster in the back as well. And so I ripped out Punisher, Daredevil, and Wolverine, got them framed up. And then the villain edition comes out in September, and I already pre-ordered it, and that's going to fill up the other half of the wall. So really looking forward to that. But yeah, I've been pretty busy, But yeah,
store.
Yeah, man, it was a really nice store. 2 stories, everything you can possibly think of, they had. And you being a Star Wars motherfucker, like yeah, like you would have had a nice little walkthrough. Yeah. But let's get into the brass tacks, man. We've been having this banter throughout this last year about Star Wars and stuff. I've never really been attached to it like that. It was just never part of my personality, or just my. It just wasn't my liking. You, on the other hand, you're an absolute geek when it comes to Star Wars stuff. A lot of people your age and grew up in that era have this absolute love for Star Wars, and I completely understand it. I've just never digested it the same way as you guys have. But I took it upon myself to watch all the Star Wars movies. It was a chore, it was tedious, but I did get to the end. But I want to focus on the
So you
Disney
went all the
Star
way
Wars
from
projects.
episode 1 to episode 9, right? You went the whole 9
Yes,
movies, and then you
yes, I
told me
went the whole night.
you did Solo and you did Rogue One in between.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and so you didn't do any of the other. So you didn't do Clone Wars. That's a whole. That's
Yeah,
its
that's a
own
whole nother
marathon.
thing. Yeah,
That's a
I
marathon to do
need.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, and you
So,
didn't do Rebels. Rebels is true. Did you do? And you didn't do Andor, which is tied to Rogue
yeah,
One.
I didn't do the
Okay.
shows. I did
Okay.
strictly movie
Okay.
projects. And
Okay.
yeah. So I did everything from 1 through 9 with Rogue One and Solo within the middle of that as well. Yeah, I didn't do any of the shows. I wanted to finish the Star Wars movies before I dove into the shows, and I was going to start with Mandalorian and go all the way up to what Kenobi's was the last one, or was it Andor?
It goes. It goes. Yeah. There's Mandalorian 3 seasons in that, but there's a season in between of Boba Fett, which is
Yeah,
there. It's divisive with a lot of people. I really enjoyed it. It's kind of like Mandalorian season 2.5 because he hijacks like the Boba Fett season. I think it's awesome. I wish they do another season of that. Then it goes into then they did what did they do this year? Then they did Obi-Wan last year, then they did Andor. Andor to me is probably my favorite Star Wars content.
That's what a
Um,
lot of people say. Andor is like really good.
uh,
Yeah.
like if it wasn't even because like when you okay, so we'll talk about Rogue One when we get there. But yeah, anyway, so then there's that, and then they have Ahsoka coming out this year, which is tied to the Clone Wars and Rebels. So you kind of have to
Yes.
be a fan of that to really understand it. She does show up in Mandalorian, spoiler alert. But I mean, yeah, but she's a live action character, and she's a cartoon in the show.
Yeah. Real quick, Coda. Yeah, is it really the end of the Spider Verse series? This series in particular, yes, but they have talked about doing Silk and some other characters as well. So, Lord and Miller are still going to be involved in the Spider-Man universe and probably bring them like Madam Web and all that stuff. And then Joe, he said, "Did you watch the?" Yeah, no, I did episodes. Was it 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3?
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, I watched it in release order. So
yeah.
yeah, that's what I did. I thought I should put myself in the seat of a average viewer, going through the times and stuff, and I thought that was probably the best way to do it because that's how George Lucas intended it to be. So
You know what's funny is my brother's like 10 years younger than me, and I'm pretty sure he watched the original trilogy like over my shoulder as I watched it at home. But
uh,
like his favorite trilogy is the prequel trilogy. Like that's his
really,
favorite. And
that's
and
new.
yeah, I mean he grew up like that. He was 2000. He was like fucking like 8 years old. You know, for him.
Yeah,
So it was like it's like if I showed and I've showed some Star Wars stuff to my son, but I'm trying to watch it in that order where we've watched we should watch episode 4. We've gotten almost through episode 5, and then we were at somebody's house and they had episode 3 on. He's watching like, hey, that's cool. I want to watch that. And I'm like, okay, he's gonna be like I'm pretty sure he's gonna be like my brother, where he just likes the special effects and all that other stuff. But
uh,
yeah, like you want to watch it in that order. I think you want to watch it in the release order.
yeah, because that's what he intended it to be, George. But yeah, let's get into the nitty gritty, man, because I just want to talk about the Disney Star Wars because
Yeah,
the prequels, so episode 1, 2, 3, I thought were pretty bad. Like it was a hassle getting through them. The only
yeah.
highlight to me in that was General Grievous, and that's the only thing. I thought Grievous was cool, but there was no character uh, development with him. He was just a dude that had 4 arms. He looked pretty cool, and
Yeah.
that was it. Yeah, and Darth Maul, really cool. I mean, they got like a guy that actually does like sword work and stuff. I don't know the proper terminology for it, but like samurai shit, and I thought that was pretty cool when I
So,
read a little more into it. But
I mean, so the lightsaber battles in the prequel series is destroys like the original series. I
yeah,
mean,
I agree with
the
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the duel of the fates between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan is top 5 like lightsaber battles. But so when you watch Solo, were you like, wait, what the fuck is Darth Maul doing in here?
Yeah, I wrote that in my notes. I wrote
Yeah,
that in my yeah. I like when he came up. I'm like, why the fuck is he in here? And
yeah,
it kind of killed it for me for like
yeah.
10 minutes, but I was over it. But yeah,
So yeah, no. So yeah, if you haven't seen the other stuff, you won't know. But basically, so Dave Filoni, who is the creator and basically the showrunner for Clone Wars and Rebels and Mandalorian and all the other shows, live action shows that Disney's doing, he he's done like a masterful job of like making all those other movies be cool or relevant. Um, he basically found a way to like retcon like all those characters and all
okay.
those moments to be like, oh, that actually mattered. That made sense. Like that's all he's been doing. So
Mhm.
like when you watch Clone Wars, it's like one of those shows where like, man, it's a cartoon show, but it's actually really fucking violent. There's a lot of slave stuff going on here. There's a lot of like violence, needless killings, yada yada. But you're like, damn, this show is brilliant actually because it really ties in with the prequel trilogy So you understand like what all these people are going through, like how it's building, the whole idea of that there's the Jedi were gonna fall. Like it was just a matter of time
When,
of when they were
yeah,
gonna fall.
yeah,
They were so like just arrogant and like cutting their stuck in their ways, and they had to fall. And the Sith were coming up, and then everything that happens with Maul through the Clone Wars and how it goes to Rebels, and then it ends really awesome, spectacularly in Rebels on what happens to him. But yeah, I mean, Dave Filoni's like literally trying to fix everything that George Lucas fucked up, and now his job is to go back through what J.J. Abrams and Ryan Johnson fucked up in the sequel trilogy, and he's trying to go back and retroactively fix all that now.
yeah. I completely agree with that. And I remember being like 12 years old and watching Rebels, and I watched a fuck ton of it. I don't remember any of it, but it was entertaining and digestible enough for me to watch it. So
Yeah.
when I get back into that, when I start getting into the shows, I have a good feeling that I will like it. And I, I, I do remember Rebels being solely part of the prequels and making it make more sense. I do remember
Yeah.
that aspect of it. But Joe, you're 100% correct in this. Yeah, I mean that like this is the main reason why it was released the way that it did. For the listeners, the one thing
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on: you don't watch these episodes in order. The "I am your father" reveal in Empire Strikes Back loses all of its impact in that order, and I 100% agree with that. And I just sort of like mix the movies around in my head and put it in the number order, the episode order,
Yeah.
and yeah, that absolutely kind of ruins it. And
Yeah, if you've never
you're 100%
seen,
right
I
with
mean,
that.
it's difficult. Like if you know somebody that's never seen Star Wars, they have to watch that original trilogy the first time, because like that turn where you find out that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father, that's like one of those like soap opera moments. It's like one of those movie changing things where you're like, oh, like this is like a big time thing, because people, if you ask anybody and you ask them who's the greatest villain in like movies, it's always Heath Ledger Joker or Darth Vader. Like those are the ones
Yeah,
that come up every time, because they're so iconic. And so like to ruin that by like seeing the backstory before it happens, like yeah, that would suck.
yeah. Um, I will say this before we get into the Disney Star Wars stuff. Empire Strikes Back, uh, great movie. I had fun watching that one. A New Hope. I didn't realize. I did some research about the New Hope. It was just originally just called Star Wars, and then they added a New Hope in the director's cut. There's a lot of director's cuts throughout this
Yeah.
whole series for whatever reason. So you can't find the original version of the original release of Star Wars anywhere. And I wanted to watch that version, but you can't find it anywhere. So, um, but yeah, so a lot of director's cuts. So yeah, New Hope. I really liked New Hope before I watched Empire Strikes Back. I think I still like New Hope more than Empire, but that's just my taste, really. I loved how fresh the New Hope was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can see that. Like I remember there's a lot of times where when I was a little kid, when I was younger, I was like, A New Hope's the best one out of all three. But that's because you're like, hey, come on for this adventure. Let's go. We're gonna go on this
exactly.
adventure,
That's
and
exactly how
and
it
let,
feels. Yeah,
and that's what it was. It's like Indiana Jones, right? It's just like we're all going. Let's just do this shit. Empire Strike Back. It's bittersweet, but I feel like it was the strongest movie out of the three. It gave you that turn. It gave you that ending where you're like, I don't know what's gonna happen. It introduced you to the idea that there's other Jedi out there, because he says, oh, there's another one, and like it just has, and you get meet
it's the
Yoda, and
best
it's just
writing. It's the
yeah.
best
Oh,
writing in the
definitely,
original
definitely
three.
best writing,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that was the one that Lawrence Kasdan wrote. George Lucas didn't
Yes,
write that film.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, and that's
And
why.
and that's a common thing through all these movies because George Lucas's like dialogue for these characters is so bland. I think that's sort of the main reason why I just couldn't sit through them because it's just so monotone.
Yeah.
with just with delivery from all the actors, and that's how he wanted it to be. And I did research upon that as well, and people were complaining about that even back in the late '80s, early '90s as well. So, um,
Interesting. Okay.
uh, Return the Oh, okay. Return of the Jedi was a special place in my heart. That's the first one I remember from when it was released. My first one was The Phantom Menace when they re-released it in theaters, and The Force Awakens was sort of my reintroduction into the Star Wars world. Uh, when did you see A New Hope?
I mean,
Right to young, huh?
I was a little kid, like it would, because it would be on TV, it'd be on network television. So I was a little kid, and I remember my mom would tell me, she's like, when you watched A New Hope, she's like, when the Jawas come out, you'd hide behind the couch because you were scared of those little motherfuckers with their like beady eyes and shit. And I'm just like, yeah, but like I'm just like now I'm thinking like I must have been like maybe like 4 years old at that time. My parents let me watch it. I won't let my son watch this stuff at 7. He's 2 and he gets like crazy, so I can't let him watch too much of this stuff.
Right.
So I have to like pierce it out, piece it out with him, like what he can watch when it's Star Wars content, because he'll literally just take it right to the playground and get crazy with kids. So like,
Take it out.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so he wanted to have a lightsaber battle the other day, and then he was with his sister, who's 2 years old, and it was just like, all right, dude, this is you've seen too much already. Like this is too much. You gotta ease into this with her. You cannot just go
Right.
full force. You can't go Darth Maul and cut her in half. You know.
Exactly.
But yeah, I was little, and then I saw the re-releases in the theater. I think it was in the '90s. I think the 20-year or 25-year uh, re-releases, and then I had the VHS tapes that I like rewatched and watched and watched and watched a million times. Um, but yeah, like Return of the Jedi is like uneven because you know it's just there's there's a lot of, I don't know how to describe it. There's all these different things happening across this little period of time, but then
It's a
like
lot of little stuff that they tried tackling all at once,
yeah,
but they only execute on like maybe three or four of those topics. That's how I felt personally.
yeah, yeah.
They were just juggling a lot in Return of the Jedi. Yeah.
Yeah, like the whole like Ewoks, like introducing the Ewoks. It's cool when you're a kid. When you're older, you're like, this is fucking stupid. Like like you and originally if you go back, they were supposed to be Wookiees. So it was gonna
Yeah.
be these little dudes. They're gonna be straight up Wookiees. Um, so like that made more sense because like how are they gonna defeat the Empire with the little like just throwing rocks and yeah, they had some weapons. They had some tricks up their sleeves with some traps and stuff, but like these guys are ultimately going to get washed if they go against the Empire.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, and then just the whole base thing, like it just seemed like a lot more important than it needed to be. They had to take the base down to take the force field down. I mean, they kind of seemed like they forced that in there, and because like when you go into other Star Wars content, like it's a lot harder to take down a force field than just like they did with a bunch of Ewoks and shit. So
Right. Right.
you know,
Yeah.
I'm nitpicking and I'm like combining all my Star Wars experience into like that movie. But yeah, I mean, you always want to see the good guys win, and the way that it ends, it's like you were like, damn, hopefully there's more of this. Like this seems pretty cool. Like what happens after this? Like does Leia become a Jedi? What happens between her and Han? What happens to Luke? Like now you got all these Force ghosts that they didn't have in the original. When you watch the original movie, you only saw Vader and Luke's dad. And then now
Yep.
I think the newer version is updated version with Anakin Scott with Hayden Christensen. It's just them, right? Did they add anybody else? Did they add Qui-Gon? I
I
can't
don't
remember.
think so. No, I
Okay.
don't think so. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah,
But
yeah, I mean, like it's the if you're doing a trilogy, like a true trilogy, like that's how you want it to end.
exactly. Yeah. And that's what I have no issues with. And I will say this, I think Empire Strikes Back is the most important movie in probably cinematic history.
It's
Just
one of them. Yeah.
yeah, it's up there. It's top three, and it's not three. I feel like
Yeah.
knowing just the landscape of how cinema was at that time, and
Yeah.
just how crazy advanced just that overall trilogy was. It's pretty insane to think about it. That's not something I took into consideration when I first started watching the movies. But all right, Disney series on a scale 1 to 10, from Force Awakens, Rogue One, Last Jedi, Solo, and Rise of Skywalker. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rank out of those movies?
So I think Rogue One is a 10. It's a 9.5 or a 10. Well, it's a 9.5 for me. I think most people will
Okay.
probably say it's a 10 if you're a Star Wars fan. I would say Force Awakens is probably a solid 7.5, 8. Um, my mind always goes back and forth on Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, because if you see those movies, like if you watch Last Jedi and you fully were like, yo, this shit is dope as shit. Star Wars is changing, then you would put that as like a 9 or 10, and then you would say Rise of Skywalker is like a 2 or a 1. But if you didn't like Last Jedi, this is where it gets. So you would say Last Jedi is a 5. Then you watch Rise of Skywalker and you'd be like, yeah, it's like a 2. Like you're still at like a 2. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they had a chance to really change the trajectory of where Star Wars is going to go with those movies, and they didn't. And I think because of the backlash that they got from Last Jedi. But the thing is, that was the whole thing. Like Kathleen Kennedy, who's the president of Lucasfilm, she's not a Star Wars fan. Like she's not Filoni or Jon Favreau. These
Right.
guys, they're like hardcore Star Wars fans. They went out of their way to create that Boba Fett season just to make Boba Fett look badass and look like they went out of their way to do all this shit for all these characters that they created. So, um, like Kathleen Kennedy, in my opinion, is there installed to basically increase revenue growth for Lucasfilm and Disney. So for her, it's about growing the fan base and not about entertaining the fans that you already have.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Which is like
Yeah.
you already got like the entire globe is Star Wars fans. So why wouldn't you just try to cater to them a little bit? You don't have to like do everything they want, but at least like if you're gonna say like, you know, it doesn't matter who's a Jedi. Anybody can have the Force. It's like universal. It's out the universe for anybody to get it, and then make Rey a Palpatine. That defeats the whole purpose of that.
Yeah.
That defeats the whole purpose of that.
I wrote notes about that too because I'm
Yeah,
very mad at that.
yeah. I
Okay,
mean,
let's start from the
go for
top.
it.
Okay, yeah, let's start from the top. Star Wars: The Force Awakens. This was a international event, and I remember it vividly. Everyone was fucking pumped for this movie, and I think it lived up to the expectations. It was fun. Kylo Ren is
Yeah,
amazing. Adam Driver put on such a great performance. I love Ray in all the movies, and I know that's kind of like a not a popular opinion. I thought Ray was a great character, and
yeah,
with Finn as well. I love the idea of him coming up, being part of the Empire, and becoming a stormtrooper, seeing how fucked up shit is, and then he goes rogue. And
yeah.
he's like, this is that's such a compelling story, and I absolutely love that. And when I saw it in theaters, you didn't need to know what happened transpired in any of the other Star Wars movies, and that's why I really enjoyed The Force Awakens when it came out. And when I rewatched it, I was really pleased, just as much as I was the first time I watched it. But that's really my big takeaways from The Force Awakens. It was really good. You don't really take much from it. There isn't any like lessons to be learned. Not to say that there should have been or anything like that. It was just a fun movie. The Kylo Ren's lightsaber, the noise that it fucking made, how like
Yeah.
jonky it was, and Ray just figuring shit out. And I love how Ray is like a nobody.
Yeah.
And to start, and she should have been the whole time. Her them turning her into Palpatine's fucking granddaughter. We'll get into that later. But Ray being a nobody, Finn going rogue, and Oscar Isaac's character Poe.
Oh,
Is that
yeah.
yeah, Poe? I love that character as well. That trio of Rey, Finn, and
Yeah.
Poe should have carried the whole trilogy going forward. And from the Force Awakens, starting there, I thought that was a great trio going forward. I'll give
Yeah.
Force Awakens an 8 out of 10. I thought it was a really good film, just in general. What are your takes
Yeah.
about it?
I mean, it's basically a reboot of the original trilogy. It was like the same sort of storyline, right? The things that
Oh,
I didn't like.
one more thing. The fan service in this one was tame, and I liked it. Bringing in Han for Han and Chewie just for a little bit was it was a perfect amount of fan service. But go back ahead.
Yeah, no, I didn't like. I mean, the thing is, if you, I don't know what Harrison Ford wanted to do with his character, but I really thought, and it kind of made sense when you watch The Last Jedi and stuff. But like killing him off that early, just bring him back to kill him off, to bring back Luke and kill him off, to bring back Leia and kill them off. Spoiler, if you haven't seen those movies. Like they kill off because that trilogy, those three people are the people that every kid wanted to be. You know what I mean? And yeah, that
Right.
was a different generation. So now we're coming in. Now you have this new, and I agree with you. The chemistry between those characters across the three movies is what made the movies watchable for me. Those
Yeah.
three characters, because like if you if Finn didn't have this like inner struggle of like now he's just understanding that he's a Jedi from being like a stormtrooper fighting his boss, Phantasma, and killing her, and then Rey coming from nowhere and discovering all his power and having elite skills. That was my one nitpick, is that she had like too many elite skills in the first movie to have like no training at all.
Right.
That was a little bothersome for me, but that's part of Star Wars where like every movie, um, and this is, I don't know if this is like written into like the storybook of how they do things, but every movie, every Force character introduces a new Force ability.
Yes.
Um, they introduce new Force abilities as you move through the movies and shows and whatnot. So I don't know if that was part of it. Like hers was like, I'm just like super adaptive and I can just learn this shit on the fly. I don't know what it was, but it was a little too quick for her to be able to pull things off and get into lightsaber battles. It was good that Finn got washed pretty early, because like that wouldn't have made sense if he could fight,
Right.
because he was, whatever. Um, but yeah, the movie was great. Like, I, it was basically like if you put, it's like exactly what it was. If you were gonna make A New Hope in like 2015, that's what it would be. It would be that movie. You know what I mean?
100% agree. Yeah. Yeah. The Force Awakens is just a fun movie, man. It's just so fun. And
Yeah, it's
yeah,
so
8 out of
fast
10.
paced and everything. It's great.
Oh yeah. It just clicks through. It's so digestible, and yeah, like the fan service is just the right amount. It's not like in your face and all, and it was really exciting. I can say myself. 8 out of 10 is my score. What is your score for Force Awakens?
Yeah, I think I'm probably like eight. It's eight,
Eight.
eight, 8.5, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Okay. Totally fair. That's kind of the mass consensus. A lot of people dig that one. Uh, And hot take, I think Kylo Ren is better than not only Darth Maul but also Boba Fett as a character.
So so when they cast Adam Driver in that role, I went back. So I'm like, who is this Adam Driver guy to play
Uh,
a character that's going to be related to Darth Vader in some way? And I went back and I watched this show called Girls on HBO.
yeah, I watched that. Yep.
Adam Driver is like, he's a really good actor, like an
Mhm.
insanely good actor. It almost is like a disservice to put him in this role, with not giving him enough character growth. You know, like we see him as the villain, and then he's conflicted, but we never see him as the kid. We only see that one scene in Last Jedi where Luke comes in with a set lightsaber and he's gonna kill him, and then he decides not to, and then he flips out. But like,
Yeah,
I would have loved to seen more, just his character grow, like just the decisions that his character would make over time, rather than just like going right into like he's already Kylo Ren. You know what I mean? Because I think
I agree.
we would have got a master class in like Star Wars acting from that dude. But yeah, like Adam Driver was I think underutilized in that role.
I agree to that, and yeah, Adam Driver is a great actor. He's in some of my favorite movies in the last like decade. He's really good, and he's possibly rumored to play Mr. Fantastic too. So
Okay.
that'll be interesting. Going to Rogue One, I saw Rogue One in theaters when it came out. I was still off the high of Force Awakens. When I first watched it, I absolutely loved it. On the second watch, I didn't like it as much, but I will say this: the movie is shot beautiful. It's the most beautifully shot like Star Wars movie probably to this point. I think Rogue One came out in 2017. I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I think Force Awakens came out at 15 and Rogue One came out in 17. So, but yeah, most beautiful shot Star Wars to this point. The only reason why I bring this one down a couple pegs is because there's just so many characters that they throw at you, and then they don't develop any of them, and then it was just too much, and I didn't really give a fuck about any of them, honestly.
yeah.
And so, like, I didn't feel like the stakes. I didn't feel the emotion that those characters were feeling. And the droid was cool. That big black one, he was funny.
K2SO. Yeah.
Yeah, K2SO. Yeah, like he was funny. He was
Yeah.
sort of the highlight of mine. But I will say this: the last 30 minutes of this movie is phenomenal. Like, not only is beautifully shot, the absolute war that was going on, the choreography, the fight choreography was really good. The writing was great. The fan service, again, like it was a little more than Force Awakens, but I think it was just fine. Who is that Empire leader? White dude.
Oh, Krennic.
Yeah, Krennic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had him throughout the whole movie, and I thought just like a little bit of him would have been just fine, but like he was in it like a lot, and they try to like de-aging him and stuff, and so it looked kind of weird.
Oh no, you're talking about Moff. You're talking about Moff Tarkin. Moff Tarkin.
Oh yeah,
That-
Tarkin.
No,
Yeah,
Krennic is the guy with the cape. Why the
Yeah,
fuck does that guy have a cape? It makes no sense why he has a cape.
yeah. The cape threw me off. Yeah, Tarkin. Yeah, that's the guy I'm thinking of. Yeah, the Empire guy, and the one that has a really good
Because
voice
he's
acting.
in the original movies, or he's in
Yes.
New Hope. He's in a New Hope.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, they tried de-aging him and stuff. It just looked kind of
That shit
weird.
was creepy as shit, dude. It did not look right. That was like the first time when they were trying to do the de-aging thing, and it just looked like a fucking like zombie.
Yeah, it did it did that aspect.
Yeah.
But I will say, out of every Star Wars movie up to Rogue One kind of did the best with instilling actual fear of the Empire like into me. Like this was kind of like the first movie that is like, man, the Empire is really like space Nazis,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I haven't felt like that at all from New Hope to Rogue One. But I definitely felt it in this movie, and I thought that was really good writing and portraying that. And I really like how there wasn't like a love thing at the end too. Like the two main characters, they didn't kiss; they were just real homies and stuff. You definitely felt it, but I like how they didn't win, and the fucking Death Star just absolutely obliterated them. And I love that. The heroes don't always need a win, and they portrayed them actually trying and like almost pulling it off, but they didn't do it. And I thought that was really good writing. My biggest issue with this movie is I looked at the promos for this movie, and we all know the ending scene, the Vader scene. I wish they didn't show Vader in the trailers and all that stuff, or even showed him at all in the movie until that last scene. I feel like the crowd pop would have been like Spider-Man No Way Home sort of pop if that shit happened that way. That's my biggest critique. But that whole Vader scene, him tearing up that whole fucking fuselage was
Yeah.
peak cinema, as what Martin Scorsese says.
Yeah, but like they never do that anymore with the trailers. Like when you watch trailers now, it's like they tell you the whole goddamn movie in the trailer. Like if you see the trailer for like Fast 10, you're like, oh, I know the whole plot synopsis. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, so they're gonna show Vader. Yeah, I agree with you. If they didn't show Vader and you saw it, it's almost the same level of seeing, Vader saying, "I'm not I'm your father," sort of thing. Like,
Wow.
holy shit, this guy's in this movie. Like, that's nuts. And then, yeah, no, now as we're talking about it, like I'm going back and I'm like, yeah, it's for me, it's probably a 9.8 out of 10. And the reason that it's not a 10 is because of the fan service elements that they put in there. There was a little bit too many fan service things that they did.
Yeah.
There were little things. They weren't like major things where you're like, oh, C-3PO's in it or whatever. It was like just like if you what I'm judging that off is if you watch Andor. Andor is basically the 5 year period before that movie, which is leads literally moments up to A New Hope. Andor is not like Andor is like all the things like there's people fucking, there's people swearing, there's people taking the shit. Like it's like a normal thing. It's a normal
Mm-hmm.
spy thing. You know what I mean? And so that's where it's just like, when she goes, I remember in the movie she's talking with Mon Mothma towards the end, and she's like, rebellions are built on hope. And I'm like, motherfucker, not Andor. Andor was not built on hope. Yeah, there's hope in there, but there's certainly just that CIA seedy sort of like we're spies and this is intelligence shit and we're just working through it. It's not the same thing as like we're doing this for hope. It wasn't like that. Like that's not what Rogue One was because the characters, yeah, I mean, they fill their roles as they're going through their missions. They all die. It was cool. It's like watching like Black Hawk Down or one of these like military
Oh
movies where
yeah.
you just like the guy like they're like, dude, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for the next guy. Like that's the
Right.
the military attitude. And so I loved it as they're going through it because they're not military people. They're just fucking rebels.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was sick. I love the movie. I love like all the sequences. They reshot it a bunch of times. I know they like changed the director and stuff. And Tony Gilroy is the guy who did all the Bourne movies. He did a bunch of other spy stuff too. So like he's the perfect guy to take over that. And the fact that he's doing Andor and how good Andor was, and I know we're gonna get at least one more season of Andor. I mean, it's just yeah, Rogue One's one of those ones I can rewatch, but I always cringe when I get those like Disney things where they don't, the guy. It's not like a violent death. It's like, oh, we shot him off screen and you don't see how they died, or one of those types of things.
One thing I've always thought about with Star Wars, and like I hate how my
Keep
mind
talking,
gets
Jay. I'll be right
sometimes.
back. Keep talking.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you're good. I For me not being a Star Wars lover, and I love violence, and I feel like this whole Star Wars story should be a lot more violent than it actually is. Yeah, the blowing up planet stuff. I mean, that's pretty fucked up. But I want to see really good fight choreography. I want to see some samurai shit. I want to see, you know, creative ways to use the force. I want some like no rules are kind of like the best rules in a sense. And I someone asked me if I could combine two franchises together and create like a new form of said movie, what would I want to do? It would be John Wick infused within the Star Wars, uh, franchise because it would be very Kill Bill-ish, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like straight up violence and gore in the Star Wars series would make it so much more palatable for me. But
There's a lot of
that's
video
just
games
me.
like that. There's a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
video
yeah.
games like
The
that.
games go crazy. Yeah, the
Yeah,
games go crazy. But like, yeah, if you were to infuse the people that work on John Wick
yeah.
into these Star Wars movies, I feel like those projects would be some of the best. And I know the fights aren't what make Star Wars what it is, but we're talking about space ninjas, basically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, yeah, I would like to dive into that a little bit more, but Rogue One, really solid film. I don't like it as much as Force Awakens. I would put maybe Rogue One at a 7.5 out of 10, just because of the fan service And then most of the movie, it was just kind of, like kind of whatever. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't like necessarily good. Not until like the last 30 minutes. And then that Vader scene at the end was great, but I wish they didn't really show him in the trailers and the promos and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on. The Last Jedi. Before I go, I want you
Yeah.
lay it out on me how you feel about The Last Jedi.
So I'll start with the highlights. So there's a couple highlights. One of the highlights is, and they tried to replicate the unpredictable moment when um when Kylo Ren kills Snoke, which I think everybody was collectively like, "Oh my
I
God,
like that.
are you seriously, like, you just killed that dude?" That was one thing. That fight scene in the throne room is like an all-time Star Wars moment.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just amazing. Um, and then the one part that I would just anytime I rewatch the movie, I just skip over is the whole Canto Bight, the 20 minutes where they go to space Vegas or whatever they call that place, space Monaco.
Oh,
Like
yeah, that
like
casino planet. Yeah.
yeah, I'm good on that. Like I skip that part every time. They introduced some interesting ideas with the idea that, well, first of all, like, and because the other thing I missed was that whole the Holdo maneuver where she just like destroys that um the spaceship flying through it through light space,
Oh,
which is like a new
yeah.
concept in Star Wars. And the fact that, if you guys don't know who Ryan Johnson is, so Ryan Johnson is the one that directed this. I can't remember how much he contributed on the writing side, but he's a guy. If you ever seen Looper, have you seen
Yeah.
Looper?
Yeah,
Do you
Looper's a
remember
good
the
one.
scene where the kid like lifts the guy up and then like sucks all of his blood out of his body, and it's all done in like silence?
Yeah.
So like that just was like that scene, like in Star Wars. Like that was a Star Wars version of that holy fuck like scene that you see when he does it.
That's a good
Um
comp. Yeah.
so um and then overall you end it and you go, okay, like it's gonna be back to the rebels. Like it's gonna be back to, like, we're going to the ground. Rebels are gonna try to get together and we're gonna do this whole thing. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter who you are. You can have the Force, the whole thing. So I'm like, okay, like I can live with that. Like I like that. I like the idea. I love the idea. I love the whole idea of um, Kylo Ren and Rey connecting,
I do
and that
too.
was like a
Yeah.
new thing. Like that's the fact that they could connect through the Force, um, and it wasn't like it wasn't romantic, right? Like it was like a weird sort of like trying to figure out like who's more powerful, like how do I get you on my side? And there is a little bit romantic thing, but it's not really about that. I
Mhm.
thought that was really cool. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie. Um, but some of the shit was just dumb, dude. Like we're in space and they're like these guys are relying on gravity to drop bombs. Like in the first sequence, we have bombers. Like they have to rely on gravity in space to drop bombs. I don't. That part didn't make any sense to me. Some of the
Right.
Poe Dameron like moves that he made with his flight made no sense in physics, in space or in like regular physics. So I don't know. Like I if they would have changed the direction of Rise of Skywalker, I probably would have had more um, fond memories of this movie. But I get tied back to like things that I liked about it and not like the movie itself.
Yeah. No, I'm on the same page with you. The main discourse around The Last Jedi is it's pretty hated amongst like Star Wars fans. I think it's a little overhated. I think it's a deeply flawed movie. Don't get me wrong, but I think there's like a lot of cool stuff in it, and I just don't know what to make of it. You just kind of have to sort through the muck to get to the good stuff, like the whole casino thing and stuff. I'll get into that whole thing because the way they completely wrote off Finn and like Poe
Yeah,
essentially really infuriated me, and
yeah,
I really wanted Finn to like become maybe not necessarily a Jedi. I know he wields like the lightsaber like I forget which movie he actually ends up using it, but I would have loved the concept of like a flawed individual became good, like outrose the empire, is able to have the force instilled into him, or develop it in some sort of way, and him become a a Jedi Knight or something. I like Me personally, I thought that would have been kind of cool, but I would have been fine if it didn't go that way. Um, Snoke's death, I thought was pretty cool. I
Yeah.
I love the subtlety of the Force, like it turning the saber a bit and then lighting it. I thought that was really fucking cool.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, this movie suffers from like juggling a lot of concepts, and they just don't, answer all of it.
Yeah.
And that's a common thing through all these Star Wars movies. Um, yeah, I would have just liked the Force to be uh, a little more accessible. I do kind of like how they do that. Uh, Kylo Ren raging when he sees it's so funny.
Yeah.
Like I laugh at that scene every time. And when he throws like the guy against the fucking the wall,
Yeah.
like in that unit and stuff, and the guy's like, "All right, I'll start it" or whatever. I thought that part was really funny.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that whole
I forgot to mention that was probably like the best part of that part of the movie was
yeah,
Luke Skywalker and them fighting because like when they end up on that like the whole fact that they're going through this like slow chase through the whole galaxy and shit, it just seems like this is not you have no chance. You have zero chance, right?
yeah,
And like they don't even give them like a really good like pathway to like succeed. It's just like, oh, we're just gonna end up here and fight them out. And I was like, that's kind of stupid. But then when like Luke showed up, I'm like, okay, this is now I like this. Now
yeah.
this can work. Like this is cool now.
Yeah. And yeah, that whole sequence was cool. And then he was just sort of like a hologram sort of fucking thing and just
Yeah.
messing with Kylo to buy time. I thought that whole concept was cool. And it's such a subtle thing, but like the sand that they were on, like the surface was like white, and then like they dug their foot into it, and then like it would like be like red underneath. I thought
Yeah.
that was just a cool
It
little
was really cool.
added
It was
feature
really
to
cool.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Uh, the most annoying thing in this movie to me was the whole Finn and Rose sort of journey
Yeah,
to
that's
that
another
fucking plane and
thing.
stuff.
And that it goes back. It started the movie that way with Rose and her fucking sister and the whole
Yeah,
thing, like dropping bombs, like if it's World War II and over like Germany or something, like
yeah,
that part, and then leading to her, and then she's like it. Okay, so this is actually one of the things that I thought would have made a lot of sense. If she's gonna take the chance, like if he's gonna take the chance to sacrifice himself, then they should have killed him at
yes,
that point
yes,
rather than her save him. Because
yes.
all the work that he had done up until that point, they should have just killed him at that point. And
Mhm.
it would have been a lot better. I think it would have been excellent. We'll talk about this when we get to the next movie because I have my fucking thoughts about Chewie in the next movie too.
Oh, yeah.
And
I don't have any notes for Chewie, but I think I know where
okay,
you're going with that. But
yeah,
um, I'll do you one better. Instead of Rose forcing in a love interest, where in this whole plot line, there's little to no woman like through this whole universe and stuff. To instead of Rose, and the fans have really like fucking killed her, and they basically wrote her
yeah,
off, but still had her in the movies, which I thought was kind of fucked up. But instead of Rose, they should have just had Poe and Finn running that whole fucking thing. I feel like
yeah,
it would have been so much better.
yeah,
Like they have to instill a love interest, dude. Finn has three love interests in this
yeah,
trilogy. Like
yeah.
why? Like
Well, who's the
like
third?
you don't have
He's got Ray. He's
uh,
got
that black shorty. I
oh
forget her
yeah,
name.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
from the yeah.
yeah. So he has three love interests, which I don't hate, but like why? Like especially in this movie, like why bring in Rose and then treat her like shit for the rest of the series?
Yeah,
Like they should have just ran with Poe, have those two together, and then that character dynamic would have been amazing because in the Force Awakens, that's how it starts. It starts with
yeah,
Finn, and then Finn leaving, and then getting with Poe. It would have just been a nice callback to the beginning of
yeah,
the series. That would have been so
yeah,
much better. Uh,
yeah,
but the writer's fault. Whatever. Um, then yeah, just overall, like it's not bad. I think this movie's definitely overhated, but
yeah.
I mean it's not good either. I'm not gonna really defend it like that. Um, I gave Rogue One a 7.5. I would give The Last Jedi probably a 7, 6.5, probably balancing around there for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I probably give it like a 5.5, but it's because it's unfinished.
It
Like
is unfinished. Yeah,
it's unfinished. Like that's why.
yeah, completely agree. I'm actually surprised we're on the same page here. I thought we were going to be kind of like on
Well,
different ends of the table here.
because the thing is, and that's what I'm saying. Like when you watch all the shows and you watch how they can like go back in between like little gaps in the story and fill it in with more story, and you're like, okay, like that makes me feel better about the rest of the stuff. I'm just talking strictly from the watch, right? And you know, overall, like I remember coming out of the theater out of those movies conflicted because I was just like, yeah, it's Star Wars. I just saw a new Star Wars movie that was fucking awesome. I didn't love it, but it's a new Star Wars movie. Like that's how I felt. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to shit on the thing that I loved.
Right. It's hard. Yeah,
So yeah.
completely agree. Um, but all right, I don't know what your opinion is about this, but Solo. Uh, did you want to
So
go first? Because yeah,
yeah, I'll
yeah, you
go.
go
I'll
first.
go. So
Yeah,
I actually like Solo a lot.
you do. I
I
do
thought it.
too. And no one likes Solo for whatever reason.
I
I
don't know
think it's
why they
really
didn't
fun.
like it. I think a lot of it's because you didn't have Harrison Ford. But the fact that you have like Donald Glover makes like 90% of the movie for me. Like
Yeah,
why
Lando was
didn't we
great.
get
Yeah,
more Lando movies and Lando content after this? So the first time I watched it, I really enjoyed it, and then I kept watching it. I'm like, yeah, it's not like it's not going to be the separate sort of story of just Han Solo because it has to tie back into the Empire and why he feels the way he does. So like all the actions that he takes, being part of like being part of the Empire as like a soldier, and then like all the heists that he pulls. I thought the heists were awesome that they pulled off, like all of them, even in the beginning with Woody Harrelson. Um, dude, I
Woody
like this
Harrelson
movie.
was
Like,
great. Yeah,
yeah, Woody Harrelson was great. Khaleesi was awesome in this movie too. Like, I always thought that they should have made another movie, or this was my like whole pitch would to be you need to make a short series, whether it's live action or if you make it animated with the Donald Glover character voice and this Han Solo dude, or maybe you can get like DH Harrison Ford somehow and do like a little like because they keep battling over the Millennium Falcon. So it'd be cool if
yeah,
they did like this series where they kept like gambling over that Millennium Falcon and landed them into this like battle with the Empire, and they had to
yeah.
fight to get the ships. Just like a short like 12 episodes of like them just fucking around, just doing stupid space shit. Like
Because
that would
that's
have
what
been
their storyline
hilarious.
is. It's them fucking around. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be tied to Star Wars. It can just be fucking funny as shit. Just like a funny series. Like it doesn't have to be all the other shit. It can just be like some funny shit that happens between those guys. Like
and
that was my dream.
and what Coda brought up earlier when I was talking about like the whole John Wick thing, like maybe infuse Guardians of the Galaxy. That maybe
Yeah,
you
exactly. Yeah,
take
that's what it
inspiration
is.
from that into this solo thing because I think that would be absolutely dope. And like I guess it's sort of kind of close, but you don't need the soundtrack. I mean, the Star Wars score is like iconic. Like you don't need to have like licensed music or anything like that. You can still deliver on the jokes. Like you don't really need a character build unless
Yeah.
if you're gonna bring in like a almighty villain and shit. Like,
I
but
mean,
yeah,
they're
dude,
like
like
they made a lot of inferences throughout Solo where you're just like, was was Lando fucking his computer? Like that's like kind of one of the things that took away from the movie. Like, was he fucking that computer? Like, why is he? They call her the love of his life, and then if you go back and rewatch, was it A New Hope when C-3PO like connects to the Millennium Falcon and he's like, oh, this is like a weird like this computer's weird because it's like an
mhm.
actual like AI from that other droid that got infused to the Millennium. So there's like a lot of ways you can go. Like you could have a lot of fun if you just wanted to take those two characters and just make just something in a box just for them.
Yeah, I thought this movie was so fun. On
Yeah.
par with Force Awakens. Like no politics, no BS, no like almighty like empire shit like
Yeah.
stuff down your throat. The guy that
No
plays
force. There's no force too, I
no
believe, right?
force
There's no
either.
force.
No force.
Yeah.
Like nobody gave a fuck if you were a Jedi or if you're on the dark side or if you're like a Sith or some shit. Like it did not matter, and I absolutely love that film for this. The guy that plays Han Solo, Aiden Anchorage,
Yeah.
he played a really good Han, dude. He was fucking hilarious. Like when I was watching him, like it's Han. Like I'm a big like Harrison Ford fan, and like I was a little sort of like iffy going into the movie, but yeah, he
Yeah.
absolutely killed it. And like his line
Yeah.
delivery was really funny too. When he was like flying the Millennium Falcon, and he was all I forget who he was talking about, but he was talking about like one of his buddies. Uh, died doing like this exact move, and he's just like jolted like the
Yeah.
fucking Falcon. Yeah, that whole part was hilarious. But yeah,
I
he
mean,
killed it.
I,
Gambino
I
killed it.
really, I really like the fact that his character, because whenever you watch, at least for me, whenever I watch Harrison Ford, I just see Indiana Jones or Han Solo. Like no matter who whatever movie or show it is, right?
Yeah,
It's like the same with like Denzel Washington or like Will Smith. Like they're essentially like just playing themselves in like this new role every time.
yeah.
But this guy showed a depth in terms of like the relationship with was her name Kira or Kyra? I can't remember her name. Um,
Uh, Give me 1 second. I got you. Keep talking.
Kira, whatever the Khaleesi's character was, like it just showed like a develop, and even when he was dealing with Woody Harrelson in the beginning, where he was kind of like fumbling through it and trying to understand it, like it made you feel like yeah, like he has like that sort of underneath surface of like what Han's gonna be later on, but like when you watch like A New Hope, like you're watching Han Solo and you're like, dude, this. I remember when I was a kid, I'm like, like I didn't want to be Luke Skywalker. I want to be Han Solo. You know, he's the dude that gets the chick. He doesn't need the force. This dude's just like runs into shit and he's just like badass, right? Like he pulls it off. And like same with Indiana Jones and same with like Air Force One, like all the movies where he's in action here, he's kind of the same dude every time.
Yeah,
So yeah, I really liked his performance. I thought he could have played a young Han in future projects. And hopefully they do more projects. Hopefully there's something that they're working on.
yeah. Hopefully they continue with the solo stuff because I really like the direction that they did with this one, and for the amount of shit that it got, it kind of reminded me of Iron Man 3 because Iron Man 3 is like really good and like no one seems to talk about it and they're just like, oh, it sucks or whatever. But like if you sit through all three movies, like Iron Man 3 is like up there with Iron Man 1, if not better.
I have to go
But
back and rewatch it. I just remember
yeah,
thinking like the fact that you had Ben Kingsley and he wasn't the Mandarin, like that was
yeah.
like you know that was like unfulfilling, and then you just had like all these like Iron Man suits just like blowing up at the end. Like I don't know. That was the only
Because the
thing that
Mandarin in
really.
the comics was a fucking menace,
That's what I'm
and
saying. And the
yeah,
fact to have him mean like nothing in the show and not have any like it was just I don't know.
yeah. And the other thing too, like seeing the Kessel Run,
Yeah, that was
seeing the
important. We had to see
iconic
that.
Kessel Run was great to see, and that's perfect fan service right there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, seeing that on the big picture was a little special. So, I saw that one in. Did I see that one in theaters? No, I saw it on Disney Plus. Never mind, but seeing it was really cool. But I'll give Solo. I won't get people mad. I'll go 7.5 out of 10 because it's just a fun film. There really isn't much to it.
Yeah, I'll go 7.5 too. Like there was I think some of the cinematography, like I didn't really like the color choices that they used. Like it
Yeah,
didn't feel like
yeah,
a Star Wars movie, you know? It was like
yeah.
kind of darker or like sepia tone. Like it just didn't feel I don't know. It was like off from the other movies.
It was very spacey. Like it was like a
Yeah.
lot of dark palettes and all. Yeah, no, I agree
Yeah.
with that. Going into probably the most controversial movie in this list, The Rise of Skywalker, the last of the trilogy. I'll let you go first because my banter is going to be really short. So
Yeah. It's definitely there's a lot of fan service, obviously, in this movie. Um,
yes,
I think that, when they made this movie, obviously they're planning on making, I think they're planning on making more movies with John Boyega and the Ray character and the or the Poe character and all the other people. But, I think I, I can't get over the fact that they made her a Palpatine. Like that was the part that just is like the most
I
bothersome
hate
part of the
it
movie.
so much, and everything was so fucking convenient with like
Yeah.
figuring shit out, and the fact that I hate to cut you off, but
Yeah, no.
the fact that in the crawl, like they just bring Palpatine back to life
Yeah. Well, I
and
mean,
don't
it's
and
the
never
best
bring
meme
it
of the
up.
entire series, dude. The best
Yeah,
meme where like Finn comes or Poe comes out and goes, somehow Palpatine came back. Like that was it.
we
That's how we
never
found out.
find out. We never find out how he actually came back to life.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't read the scroll because this scroll was fucking long, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'll figure it out. And then like, just somehow Palpatine was alive, and I had to go back to the scroll. And I was like, "Are you serious? Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you just say that?" And
So
like that kills Ray's character quite a lot for me because like I loved how she was a nobody, and like she was
yeah.
so like molded at like for good, and like nothing can sway her into the dark side, and to make her fucking Palpatine's granddaughter just out of
Yeah.
the bloom was so annoying to me. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, so the parts, obviously I already saw this, but the best parts of this entire series trilogy and this movie is the Poe Finn um, Ray dynamic, and then the second part is the Ray and Kylo Ren dynamic. Like
Yes.
the
Yeah.
chemistry of those characters is so awesome, and you would think that she would go to the dark side because of him, not
Mhm.
because of like she's a Palpatine. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't make any fucking sense. Like she would go to the dark side because she wanted to be with Kylo, right? Or she figured she could go to the dark side and convert him and all that stuff, right? Like there's a bunch of different ways you could whatever. But yeah, so that part, I think there was a lot of Goonies type of shenanigans going on in this movie that didn't need to happen.
The
Um,
treasure hunting shit. Yeah.
and they're my biggest pet peeve, and you may know this or may not. We'll see if you know. But like, so if you watch, Rebels or Clone Wars or read the comic books, those little triangular crystal things, those are
Hmm.
called holocrons. Okay,
Yes. Yeah.
so when they find it, they're like, "Oh, this is a Sith Wayfinder." I'm like, "No, this is not a Sith Wayfinder. This is holocron. This is canon. We know what this is. I know and this is my point about Kathleen Kennedy and these people that have influence over the creatives on this uh, project, is that they're trying to dumb it down to people so that like the universally people understand it. But if you just say holocrons, like it doesn't change what the fucking device does. It just means like, oh, it's a hologram. What does that mean? Okay, if I go up and look it up on Wikipedia or on Star Wars Google, I'll find out what a holocron is. Like you don't have to make it such basic knowledge to people. Like that's what part where I'm like, those are the things where I didn't like. And
Yeah.
you know, when 3PO, okay, so the Chewbacca part,
Oh yeah,
it
the
would have
Chewbacca
meant
part. Yeah. Yeah.
it would have meant everything if you just killed him. They should have just killed him at that point. Because then the stakes matter. Then you go, okay, Reyes actually can be a villain. If she pulls down this transport, kills Chewbacca. By the way, Chewbacca hasn't done shit in a really fucking long time. In fact,
Yeah.
hot take, he hasn't done shit really. If you have to go back to like Clone Wars and like you have to go back to like the animated version to have him actually contributing something. Like this dude doesn't actually contribute much, right? He's just a really cool sidekick. So if you
And
kill
he has a
them,
pretty
yeah,
cool bow gun. Yeah.
but that's it. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. I mean, there's other Wookiees. They probably have their weapons too. There's actually a Jedi Wookiee in Clone Wars. So
Really?
that
Okay.
yeah. So either way, like I just thought that was a decision that they should have just killed him, and that was fan service to bring him back. They should have just killed him because it would have meant a lot more to the character, and the stakes of what was going to happen next to the fact that he was dead.
Mm.
But you know, I loved everything that happened with Kylo Ren in this. Like, I loved all the
Yeah.
Kylo stuff. Like the
Kylo
fact that
Ren, Kylo Ren,
go.
yeah, Kylo Ren, Rey, and then the dynamic between Finn, Poe, and Rey in that order is
Yeah,
the best things part of this trilogy. Kylo Ren, from top to bottom, was the best part of this trilogy,
because
bar
he was the
none.
best actor in the whole show, or the
Yeah,
whole movie.
yeah,
Like he's
yeah.
by far the best actor, and they gave him a chance to cook a little bit there, and he cooked with Harrison Ford and everything, and it was nice. But yeah, man. I mean, it's like fun. Like, you got it was really fast paced too. I like that. The part that was really interesting moving forward is the fact that now, or I guess it was the previous movie too, that now that like all there's technology to jump through hyperspace, like you can track somebody through hyperspace, where
Hmm.
like before it was like if you jump to hyperspace, it was just like
You're
you
gone.
know,
Yeah,
you're gone. Like it's like pulling the Nas with like Vin Diesel driving a car. Like that fool's gone. Like you're not seeing him again. Like, that's just gone.
yeah.
And so like now it's like okay, well, like now you can jump through hyperspace, which is like a different hole of the thing, which is kind of crazy. But I kind of liked it the way before because it had that like you had the ability if you jump, you're gone. And like
Hmm.
now they have to find you. Now it's like I don't know. We'll see how that plays into new stories and things, but yeah, man. I mean, it's the movie. I'd probably give it like a 3 or 4.
Man, we really like agreed on like just about every score here because yeah, I'll put it at a 3 or a 4. I'm probably more leaning towards 3, just because everything in this movie was too convenient, which really annoyed me. It was like, oh, like we found this fucking thing, and like, oh, there it is. Let me line it up with this random mountain range and shit. It was just like
Yeah,
it just everything was just way too convenient in here. I hate how they just completely wrote off Finn
yeah.
entirely. Totally butchered that. They gave Poe no identity by the end. Ray's thing was still kind of cool.
No,
Yeah,
her
but
yeah,
yeah,
that her thing, her ending is cool, and like the fact that she has yellow lightsabers, which is like really unique. And then if you, I mean, you have to go back and watch a lot of stuff. Like there's obviously like Samuel Jackson had the purple one, but everybody
yeah,
else was either red, yellow, red, white, red, blue, or green. And then Ahsoka has white lightsabers, and this I
mm,
won't spoil the story and how she gets them because it's fucking awesome. But she has white lightsabers, and then you have these yellow ones, which is pretty cool. And
do you know if the Ahsoka show is going to be is it going to be like a what do you call it, like an origin
prequel?
story?
No,
Is it
her origin
no?
story's been told. Her story's been told. This takes place in the Mandoverse, which is about I want to say like 5 to 10 years after the Empire has fallen.
Okay, okay,
So
all right.
Luke Skywalker exists in this space. All the rebels that survived the battle at Endor exist in this space. Um, Mon Mothma will probably see in Ahsoka because she exists in Rebels and she exists in Clone Wars
Right, right,
and she exists in Rogue One and Andor. So
right.
we're gonna see her. But yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like yeah. So you go to the movies and you're like, yeah, the movie is what it is. But then I get more excited for the show because the
Mm,
shows tell you a lot more and they go back to like familiar places and they spend, like you know, um, we see Luke on Tatooine for like all of like
yeah.
30 minutes. We see Ray go there for like 2 minutes, but like you get in like almost half a series of Mandalorian where he's on Tatooine, so you get to
Mm,
explore it like even in more depth and you learn more about it. Even with Boba Fett, same thing. Boba Fett's there, so like it's just cool. Like you get so much more of these places, and like it changes your entire opinion of what you feel about Sand People through the Boba Fett series because that like I won't spoil it, but you have to go see that because like it tells you a whole nother story about the Sand People.
mm.
So I don't know. It's just like a lot of untold stuff that we learn about, and to me, it's just that's why I love it. I just keep coming back to it because these stories just like fill my heart. I don't know. I just love it.
Yeah. My other beef before I get into my question for you, why didn't I don't know if anybody else has really said this, but why didn't the writers kind of give Ray like a staff saber? I feel like that would have been really fucking cool.
Um, that is a really that actually I never thought about that, but that makes 100% sense. She would have developed she would have developed a saber in her style of fighting, the same way
Yes.
that So I mentioned that there's a well, he's a Padawan. There's a Padawan Wookiee uh
Jedi.
Jedi
Yeah.
in the Clone Wars, and he does the same thing where he grafts it out of like the wood, like it's kind of like the wood that they make the crossbow from
Yeah.
his planet. Um, there's another character who's a Padawan in Rebels who creates his own lightsaber out of his own sort of. He works with a blaster and like sort of like a slingshot thing. So he
Yeah.
makes his own sort of weapon. Um, and then Kylo Ren is it's totally custom for him. Darth Maul, and then do you know anything about the Inquisitors?
No.
Are you familiar with them? Okay, so Inquisitors, you'll learn about them when you watch Rebels and Obi-Wan and Clone Wars, or not Clone Wars, but Rebels and Obi-Wan. Basically, they're a whole another set of like Sith or dark yeah, they're Dark Force users. They have their own Jedi or their own a lightsaber thing that they created, where it's just like a you put your hand in it, it's like a blade that goes around and it like has two
Oh, know
blades
what?
and
I
it
have seen
spins.
that. I have
Yeah,
seen that.
and
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
they put their hand in it, it can spin, and so like they have these different weapons. So like yeah, you're 100% right. She should have had a bow that would have turned into a lightsaber.
Yeah,
Um,
like I thought they were foreshadowing that in like the Force Awakens with like how she would use
yeah.
like the staff and all. And I was like, I can't wait till she
Well,
can like
the the
construct
only
it.
thing I could say is that maybe if they make more content with her, that those two blades, because she has two, right? The two blades
Yeah,
combine into like a staff.
yeah, that would be
Hopefully
cool.
that's what. Yeah,
Yeah, so like, yeah, that was another sort of beef that I had that like I wish they would have at least did something, or at least give her something custom. I mean, like the yellow saber is cool. I mean, I guess,
yeah.
but like, yeah, like I thought they were foreshadowing with her with her fucking staff and being like another unique piece of Jedi shit, some Force shit, but yeah, yeah, 3 or 4 out of 10. That's probably where I'll put the Rise of Skywalker. Very disappointing ending, but I will say the Kylo Ren and Rey stuff was very good, very palatable, and not really much complaining there. I'm actually really surprised how much we agreed on upon this. I was actually a little worried
No,
because a lot of these movies I kind of tranced off a bit, but yeah, man, yeah,
I mean, like, well, that's the thing. Like, I can be like for me, I'm just I can tell you how I feel about it, but like that's an objective thing. But like when I look back and I'm like at the end of the day, if Wu Tang has a bad album, I'm still gonna listen to the bad album.
yeah, yeah,
Or
right, yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that's just how it goes. Like
yeah.
that's just how it works for me. So like I'm not like yeah, if Star Wars put out some bad shit, I may watch it one time or two times, but I'm not gonna like shit all over it. I'm just gonna go back and watch the things that I really like.
Hmm. What do you think of what Coda said right here? The Final Order would be a good spin-off movie. What do you think about that?
Final Order. Yeah. I mean, I feel like they're gonna make it a video game. I don't know if it have the same traction. That's the thing. Like when they make the
That would
decision
be a
on
good
this,
game. That
yeah,
would be a good game. Yeah.
because the way they make decisions on these projects, like the Andor thing, it made sense because you had Tony Gilroy, so they're gonna make it, go back to the whole like Rogue One and build it out. So that was badass, and that's like again, like I can't tell you how good Andor is. Andor is fucking amazing. Um, and then even like Mandalorian, like they go back and they retrofit a lot of things or retcon a lot of stuff into it with the same characters. And the cool thing is if you watch the cartoons, a lot of the characters are like the live action versions of the voices. So Katie Sackhoff plays Bo-Katan, which is awesome. But yeah, like I don't know, like I don't know how they choose these things. I feel like that would probably be a video game, or it wouldn't be on Disney Plus. I don't think it would be on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I don't think that's a Disney Plus show.
Yeah.
But okay, to wrap up the Star Wars talk, I do have one question for you. Well, really two. But one, have you seen Harry Potter? Like all of them?
No. So my brother was really young. So I took him to the movies to see a lot of those movies, and then at some point he just got sick of it because he would read the books, and then whatever, I think he lost interest. He got into something else. I never was a big fan of it because I just didn't. I, you know, whatever it was, like it'd be one thing if it was built in another world, but the fact it was built in our world, and like
Yeah.
we're all considered muggles, and then you have all these fucking magicians and shit. It just didn't. I just didn't couldn't get into it.
Mhm.
But I know the story for the most part.
Yeah. Okay. So 8 movies to like what 9 movies that Star Wars has. I My brother brought up a good question for me because I was talking to him about like this whole Star Wars thing. He doesn't really know Star Wars like that, but he knows I really dig Harry Potter, and he was asking me what the better franchise is, and it's kind of like a hard question for me to answer because one, two different time periods, and with technology and what you can get away with and what you
Yeah.
can't, and then storytelling, and then character building, and like side characters and overall direction, story, and villains. Like all these stuff, all these things you have to take into consideration. Uh, I think the highs of Star Wars are better than the highs in Harry Potter, but
Yeah, I think for the audience it's different, right? Like I think there's people that are really passionate and tied into Harry Potter where some of the moments with Harry and whatever the guy's name is, what's the guy's name? What's his, I don't know his name. The main villain.
uh, oh, fucking
I want to, I almost said Snoke. I don't know
yeah,
what's his
he
name.
looks like Snoke. He looks like
Yeah,
Snoke.
yeah.
Oh fuck! Why am I spacing? Oh, Voldemort.
Fucking
Voldemort.
Voldemort, right? Like
Yeah.
I know for those people, like some of those moments are like so like intimate to like their childhood or their like experiences growing up and like about villainry and hero, being heroes and stuff. So like I get that part, but like to me, they're boxed in because they're in this one universe. Like they can't really like they did those Dumbledore movies or whatever to do some things they expanded
The
back on.
Fantastic Beasts and shit. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then they did like I know somebody made a play about Harry Potter of like what would happen when their kids were going to like the magician school or whatever. But like Star Wars is like infinite because you can go anywhere, anytime, any place. Like, like
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
and then
Yeah.
at the same time, yeah, and at the same time they're like still somehow making shows about the original trilogy and just filling in stories in between all these other stories. Like Andor happens, 5 years before Rogue One, which happens moments before A New Hope, and then you have the Clone Wars, which happens in between episodes 2 and 3, which is like a 2-year period with like literally 8 seasons of television, dude. It's like crazy how much content they push in. Mandalorian takes place within this short gap. And then within Mandalorian, you have Ahsoka. And then Rebels takes place at the same time at Andor. So it's just like they're in the same universe doing different things, but not even connected to each other. But they're connected eventually somehow. So it's just like, it's amazing what they can do.
I do agree with that. There's a lot more versatility with the Star Wars franchise. I think for me personally, I like I was saying, the highs of Star Wars are better than the highs in Harry Potter, but I think the lows uh, are a lot worse on the Star Wars end than they are in Harry Potter. And Harry
Yeah.
Potter is just lazy writing when it gets to the lows. I think when you're comparing the two franchises, I think it's kind of 50-50 uh,
Yeah.
when it comes to character development and like villains and stuff like that. Nothing can top Vader. Vader's the most
Yeah.
iconic, villain ever. But on the flip side of that coin, Voldemort is one of the most menacing, villains in like.
And he's better in the
Uh,
books too, right? Than he is in
yeah,
the
yeah,
movies.
yeah, dude. He's like. He's like Hitler with a fucking magic
Yeah.
wand, dude. He's
Yeah.
crazy. So,
Yeah.
and like, so I just thought it was an interesting question. I was kind of hoping that you did see the all the Harry Potter movies, or at
Yeah.
least were somewhat familiar. But I just thought it was an interesting question. I think for me personally, uh, I would take the Harry Potter movies over the Star Wars movies, just because like the prequels are pretty bad, right?
Yeah.
Then New Hope is good, Empire is good, The Last Jedi is kind of like whatever, and then yeah, the prequels are bad, and then you get into like the Disney stuff, and the Disney stuff is kind of like either hit or miss. I think with Harry Potter, it's a lot more consistent, but like you really can't go wrong with either. But
Yeah.
yeah, that I just thought it was an interesting question, and if anybody in here was gonna bring up anything,
Yeah.
Coda's into Lord of the Rings. I never got into Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
I
I'm a
honestly,
huge Lord of the Rings guy, dude. And a lot of
really,
people have problems. Oh, I'm a huge Lord. I read the books. That was like the first time where when I was a kid where I read books for fun. Was I read Lord of the Rings books for fun, like The
did you
Hobbit and
like
all
The
that kind of
Hobbit?
stuff. I love The
Did you
Hobbit.
like the Really?
Yeah, yeah. No, the
I might
books,
have
the
to give it
books.
a
I'm talking about
try.
the book, the books.
Yeah, okay, the books, okay,
Yeah.
because the movies, I was like, I don't know,
Oh no,
man.
that was like another Star Wars moment for me when they made the movies for Lord of the Rings. And I was like, holy shit, like Peter Jackson, they made these movies is like the most expensive movies at that time ever made. They made the trilogy, it was like $340 million to make them back to back to back. And I was just like, holy shit, going to the theater, I'm like, this is everything I imagined when I read these books. Like this is it. In fact, it's even more. Um, and I feel like when I talk to people that read Harry Potter books, they are not they don't say that about the books versus the movies. Like no one says
Correct,
like
correct,
the
yeah,
movies captured the entire imagination of the book. Versus
yeah,
like Lord of the Rings, there's so much shit going on, so much history, thousands of years, and it's very specifically detailed to the armor that people wore and what the landscape was like and all that sort of stuff. And they were like able to hit it in Lord of the Rings. And the fact that they had to shorten it down to like these 3 hour movies, and if you I have the director's cut, which are like 5 hours long, even that you're like, okay, like that's not even like the whole story of the book, but it's the best
right.
they could do to make it like palatable. If not, they would just be like a fucking 12 season 24 episode TV show,
Mhm.
and it would cost millions and billions of dollars to make.
I might have to give it another try, but I'll probably do the books. I never read the books. I just watched the movies, and I was like, I don't know, I don't know. And I did
Yeah,
hear that like there's just so much shit in the Lord of the Rings series that you really can't put it in movie form. It would be more
yeah,
of like a season worth of content to really try to flesh out everything that's entailed into it. I have heard that a bunch, so I'll probably give it a try. I'll listen to the Audible or something. Um,
yeah.
where
And
where
there's actually if you there, I think you can find it on YouTube, but there's a 1970s cartoon of, and I think it's like hours and hours of the entire series on YouTube.
mhm.
It's goofy as shit, but but it's like literally like word for word the book for the most part.
Oh,
Obviously,
okay.
it's like 1970s cartoon, but it's pretty fucking cool. Like I remember somebody put me onto that, and I'm like, oh, this is actually really cool because like if you read the book, you're like, oh, this is like watching the book, but it's not the movie because the movie is like epic. The book, the version they put in this is like the story you get in the book. It's not epic because it's like a 70s cartoon, but it's still really good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out after I finish all my Star Wars watching, because I'm about to start Mando, and then once I kill through all this, rest of the Star Wars shit, I'm gonna
Yeah,
get back onto Barry. I'm gonna finish Succession, and I'm gonna watch some other things too.
yeah.
And
We should catch up. Both of us should catch up. We should do six at least Barry. We should do Barry. I got a lot of takes on Barry.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite shows.
I just started it. I'm about 5 episodes in, and I really, really like it. And I didn't think Bill Hader would do a role like this, but it's really unique. I really like this show so far. So
Yeah.
I'm getting in. I'm getting into it now. I've been so fucking.
Yeah.
I
Dude,
all my time has been going into these fucking Star Wars movies, man. I tell you.
I hear that, dude. I hear that. I'll just say this: NoHo Hank is like a top 5 all-time character for me. Like his character progression through the entire series, he's one of the funniest fucking people ever on television.
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't know Hank, the bald guy on Barry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The bald guy
Yeah,
from the Chechen mob. He is one of the funniest people ever on television. He's like up there with Kramer and like, those like Chris Farley. Like he is like all time funny for me, my personal opinion.
it's funny you mentioned Kramer. I was watching Seinfeld the other day, and it was the Joe DiMaggio thing when him
Oh
like
yeah.
dunking the donut in the coffee, and like yeah, that show is so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that wraps up our Star Wars shit. Finally glad we broke that down. I still want to bring on Dan Duarte and so some other people to talk about some other films and shit. Dan is a big Batman guy. I have rewatched Dark Knight Rises. I did give you shit about the movie in general. You think it's the best one yet. I'm not going to give you my take about it as of right now, but I would love to get in contact with Dan, have him on so we can have maybe a Batman episode because I'm going to be getting a haul of Batman comics soon. Some of my favorite comics that I've ever read were Batman comics, and I'm really mad that I sold them when I was younger. So and I have to
Yeah, we should
rebuy
do
all of them.
that. I'm definitely here for that. And I know you, me, and Evan are gonna do I put together an idea for a NBA's most influential players draft.
Yeah.
Not best players, most influential players. So I've already teed that up. So whenever we can do that, we definitely got to do that. Hopefully soon.
Yeah,
We
we
got
got
a
to
lot of
get
time now.
Flex. We got to get Dan. We got to get the Suns Jam
Yeah, we
Session
should do
guys
that. We
on.
should do that.
Yeah. Like, I would love to have a whole like Bam Bam Sham fucking thing. So, no, you brought that idea up a few weeks ago, and I thought that was a really really cool idea, and I would love to do that. Just having the boys back on would be really cool.
Yeah.
But did you have any other closing thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, I don't know. Did the Diamondbacks win tonight? I don't even know.
I have no idea. Dude, the Diamondbacks are fucking
They're
killing it,
killing it.
man.
They're killing it.
They are killing it. And
I haven't cared
this
about
was not on
Diamondbacks
my
since
list.
like 10 years, 12 years ago, dude. I've
Same.
not paid attention to this team in a long time. And then all of a sudden I just get notifications from people that are Dodgers fans being like, "Hey, your team is in first place.
Yeah, they won. They won.
They
9-8.
won." And yeah, and they have that ability to come back and win. Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, the pitching staff's really good. I know the bullpen sucks, but like the team overall is just good.
They are killing it, dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Aussies too. We have to figure out the timing and stuff. They're really cool over there. But yeah,
I'll
we
do
have to
anything with
figure
those
out
guys. I'm so down to
yeah,
do something with those guys.
yeah. But we got to have all these fucking guys on, man. But yeah, the Aussies, we're still yet to get them on, but yeah, it's really timing. And then Castro almost blew the game again. Yeah, like that's what I've been seeing a lot. Like Castro is just like on one, but yeah, dude, the
Yeah.
Diamondbacks are fucking killing it. And this was not on my list for the year of things to expect. They're 41-25, dude.
I know they're in first place in the NL West. I don't know where they are in the rest of the league, but they're really high up there. And like they're like, so I started because I didn't even care, dude. I was like, fuck the Diamondbacks, whatever. But then I started watching the highlights, and then you watch Corbin Carroll, and this guy he hits a home run like every game now, which was
He's a
not his
fucking
like
stud,
strength
dude.
as a player. And now
Yeah.
he's got power on top of like contact, on top of speed. And if you watch him run the bases, dude, the guy looks like Kyler. Like he looks like Kyler. Like he's got those like
He's
little
quick.
legs that just like fucking just run. It just looks like a cartoon character. It's just like he looks like Kyler when he's running the bases, and he can field, and he's got charisma. He's got the hair. Like the dude, it's just fun to watch his team. And I don't even watch him. I just watch the highlights. I don't have time to watch baseball, but I just pay enough attention to just be like, okay, Merrill Kelly's doing good. What whoever's doing good. Like I just whatever it is. Like I'm casually watching, but I have my intent to like at some point sit down and watch 9 innings of this team.
Yeah, once they play on a Saturday, I'll probably sit down and watch it because they've like you said, I've been watching just highlights, and yeah, this kid Carroll, dude, like
Yeah.
he looks like a hick. You're
Yeah.
not expecting him to fucking launch it like every
Yeah.
game, but he does, and he runs around like he makes like a single hit into like a double. He
Oh yeah.
makes a double hit into a home run. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And then he steals third
Oh, he's
base,
from
which is like
Seattle?
the hardest base to steal. He steals it constantly. Yeah.
He's for sure going to be an all-star. Yeah, there's no question if they keep it up. But
Yeah.
yeah, Diamondbacks being good was not on my list for this year. It's pretty insane. But yeah, if they fix up that bullpen, figure out some things, especially with the pitching rotation, because they're kind of giving up a lot of hits just about every game. But yeah, if they could figure that out, this team is going to be rolling, and hopefully
Yeah.
they don't just blow it up again like they
Well,
usually do.
that's always the concern, right? Like if you
Yeah.
like you have the guy, they literally call him America's first baseman. Like one of the greatest first basemen play, and then you just trade him away for like literally nothing.
Literally
For
nothing.
what?
Yeah.
To do what? What would you do with that? Like you didn't get prospects
To do
back.
more
You didn't do
nothing.
anything. Yeah, to do more nothing. To get more players that they're not going to pay. So if they don't pay these motherfuckers, they don't pay Carroll and Marte and all these other dudes and fuck this. I'm kind of already there where I'm just like done with this team. But if you have somebody like Carroll, because they had this guy with Upton too. They had Upton, and they let him go too. So I don't know.
Hey, time will tell. When they get to a World Series, I will be there. I'm just saying. It's probably not going to happen this season or next season, but I mean, dude, this is promising. They're 41 and 25.
Yeah.
When's the last time we saw our Diamondbacks being 41 and 25?
Not that high of a percentage. Like, you have to go back to probably like 2010 with Brandon Webb or something.
I'm gonna look. That's actually interesting. I'll look later. I'll wrap this up. 2017. Yeah, that was a bad time. I was frustrated. I remember seeing the newspaper clippings and stuff, and I was like, oh no. Yeah, like why would you do that? That was all the Diamondback jerseys that you saw. It was like Upton and Goldschmidt, and then Randy Johnson, and like two of those guys were just fucking thrown away. So, but man, dude, this was a very, very good podcast. I'm finally glad we were able to do an After Dark. Our last one was with Flex. So that was our last one, and I'm glad we're. That shit was a while ago. It was cold. It was cold out. That's
man. I the ones I remember, like my favorite ones are when we did the Stranger Things ones last summer.
Oh yeah,
it's almost a year ago since we did those ones. Those are some of my favorite ones that we did. But man, we got to do more of these when we can.
Yeah. Hey, kids, life, shit happens. Yeah. Fucking, my mom was moving using my Dodge Durango. She got hit by this dude on the highway, and so I've been dealing with that shit. I don't get my vehicle back until like the 28th, and then I've been dealing with work shit and like fucking, I'm trying not to watch basketball because like the Nuggets just fucking won, and I'm a little irritated, but. I mean, yeah, we're going to start doing this more. We're part of the Arizona Sports Underground family now, so we're going to be pumping out content as much as we can. Shout out to Joe. Shout out to the rest of the crew. Hopefully, we start picking all this back up. I know Evan's been busy. We've all been busy, so we'll get back into the swing of things and definitely have more guests on. throughout the summer. Hopefully, we get the Suns Jam Session guys on. Hopefully, both of them at the same time because I think that would be really cool. And then getting the Coast to Coast guys on, possibly, and maybe some other people too. I've been in contact with other YouTubers that cover other teams that are kind of popular, and we've been in talks and stuff, and we'll possibly get them on and have like an outside POV stuff, Suns oriented, or even Oklahoma City, or like whatever the fuck. We're transitioning into a Phoenix Suns podcast, and that's really where our love of sports stems from. Is the 7 seconds or less, or those Kevin Johnson, Tom Chamber teams. So, but anything else you have to say before we wrap this up and boogie out of
Man,
here?
I need to go to sleep, bro. I'm a peace out right now. So, all right, guys.
Yes. Have a good one, everybody, and check out the previous episodes and all that stuff. So, stay tuned for more stuff to come. Have a good night, everybody.